My name is Shivani Jagaraja, and I'm the founder of the Fifth Estate. The reason I'm making this video is because I am quite shocked that the parties in Sri Lanka and most people in Sri Lanka are believing in the lies that have been spread by the government in relation to ISIS attacks, because there just aren't any ISIS attacks. And if we look at the facts, we'll understand what's actually going on. Okay, fact number one. 3 years ago, Hilmi Ahmed, Vice President of the Muslim Council of Sri Lanka, warned military intelligence about the NMJ. There were detailed warnings of attacks, but these were not communicated to those in power. The President, the Prime Minister, and the Deputy Minister of Defence did not know. Why? The Prime Minister has not been informed of National Security Council meetings since October 2018, although SLFP members have attended. Why? NMJ was funded from an account run by military intelligence, which was also used to fund the BBS. Why? Moderate Muslim organisations had written to the authorities about the NTJ and its leader Zaran, asking that he be banned on account of their activities, including the defacing of Buddhist statues and the propagation of hate speech. There were demonstrations in Kathankudi to this effect as well. Some members involved in the Eastern Sunday carnage had been arrested and released on the intervention of key politicians. Why? Harin Fernando, a cabinet minister, circulated an internal security memo drafted shortly before the Easter Sunday bombings, and warned that the group was getting ready for suicide attacks on popular Catholic churches and the Indian High Commission. It also said that the group's members were inciting hatred among online followers. Still, no action was taken. We also learn from the Colombo Telegraph that 3 of Sirisena's governors, Hizbullah, Salih and Gunaratna, have been questioned in connection with their involvement with the NTJ. Quoting from a confidential intelligence report, Health Minister Rajitha Senaratne said that both Islamist and Buddhist extremist groups were initially bankrolled by the former government led by Mahinda Rajapaksa. His brother, the top defence official at the time, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, directed the operations. Direct quote from Minister Senaratne. Tawhid Jamaat Secretary Abdul Razik Rafiquddin was an army intelligence member, Senaratne told journalists in Colombo. Further quote, a close ally of ex-Defence Secretary Gotabaya, now a retired Major General, had coordinated these Muslim and Sinhala extremists. He was also head of the Special Security Operations Committee that functioned under Gotabaya's instructions. The officer coordinated a failed coup to retain power in the hands of the ousted president, Mahinda Rajapaksa, said Dr. Senaratne. So this is not a conspiracy. This is an express admission by a government minister that NTJ and extreme Buddhist groups were funded by the government, were intelligence officers, and were involved in extrajudicial killings of the police. Months before NTJ targeted churches and luxury hotels on Easter Sunday, military intelligence officers provided them with assistance to kill 2 policemen, alleged Minister Rajitha Senaratne. Speaking to reporters, he said that at least 4 army officers had directed the assassination of 2 police officers at a checkpoint in Vavunathivu on the 30th of November 2018. I understand that several suspected LTT cadres were arrested for that. Sri Lanka's cabinet spokesperson said that at least 4 army officers were involved in organising the assassination of police officers in Batticaloa last year, and claimed dozens of NTJ were on the payroll of Sri Lankan intelligence linked to Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Senaratne, Sri Lanka's health minister, went on to claim that at least 26 members of the recently banned NTJ, who were being blamed for the attacks, were being paid by Sri Lankan intelligence and linked to Gotabaya Rajapaksa. And it's interesting to learn as well, and I'm afraid just too much of a coincidence, that Gotabaya now states that he will stand as a presidential candidate to defeat ISIS. On another level, another emergency regulation or series of regulations have been passed. And most people think that these emergency regulations are simply to do with the burqa ban. But actually, if you read the regulations in Tamil and Sinhalese in English, what you'll see is that it's far, far more than that. And the effect of these regulations is to clamp down on protests, and in particular on any expression of Tamil cultural identity. I'm just going to read some of the passages. So, whoever by words, whether spoken or written, or by singing, or by visible representations, or by conduct, or by any other act, advocates, urges, or advises directly or indirectly the necessity or duty of overthrowing or overpowering, otherwise than by lawful means, the government of Sri Lanka, shall be guilty of an offence. No person shall affix in any place visible to the public or distribute among the public any posters, handbills or leaflets, the contents of which are prejudicial to public security, public order. No person shall by word of mouth or by any means whatsoever communicate, disseminate or spread any rumour or false statement which is likely to cause public alarm or public disorder. Any person who prints or publishes any document of the activities of any organisation prescribed shall be guilty of an offence. Any matter likely, directly or indirectly, to create communal tension shall be guilty of an offence. You're not permitted to provide information detrimental or prejudicial to national security. You cannot display slogans. You cannot distribute leaflets. You cannot communicate or spread rumours and false statements. You cannot print or publish certain type of documents. You cannot have possession, custody or control any book, document or paper containing any writing or representation which is likely to be prejudicial to the interests of national security, to the preservation of public order, which is likely to arouse or encourage or promote feelings or hatred or contempt to the government, or which is likely to incite any person to overthrow the government. In other words, these emergency regulations have very, very little to do with the burqa, and they've got everything to do with making it more or less impossible to have any collective opposition, particularly in opposition that relates to Tamils and any expression of Tamil cultural identity. All of that is criminalised. The emergency regulations were not discussed in Parliament. They were brought under the banner of extreme fear of ISIS. And what this all shows is that there has been a long-term and quite clever plan by, I would say, the Rajapaksas, and in particular Gotabaya, to play the long game. And the culmination of that long game is the ISIS threat, which everyone has fallen for. And the effect of the long game is that today, the security forces carried out major search operations at the University of Jaffna. They were told The university was told that if it didn't allow these searches, it would be closed. Pictures of LTT leaders were taken away. Forces took photos of Mahavir memorials, Mulai memorials, Pongu Tamil Declaration monuments. Army personnel were heard commenting that the said structures were illegal. Well, yes, they would be illegal under the new emergency regulations. There will be a whole host of things that would be illegal under the emergency regulations, including, for example, criticising the government, including, for example, wishing that you could overthrow the government. The other thing that took place today was the Jaffna Magistrates Court had issued summons on the former Defence Secretary Gotabaya to appear before court as a witness with regard to habeas corpus petition filed over a disappearance. But his advocate said that he could not appear in court today because of security reasons. So there just continue to be all of these amazing coincidences. University of Jaffna is being searched for security reasons on the same day that Gotabaya is supposed to go to the Magistrates Court in relation to a disappearance. And the reason why I'm making this particular video, apart from really trying to urge people to not fall for the lies and the hype, is that on the 18th of May this year, it will be the 10th year commemoration of the Tamil war dead. And that is something very important to the Tamil people in terms of our own identity and our dignity. And all over the world, and including in the north and the northeast, it will be celebrated. And I am very concerned that the emergency regulations are going to be used by Gotabaya under the mantle of the threat of ISIS, because there is no threat of ISIS, to really become very oppressive, even more oppressive than they've already been, to one of the most militarized parts of the world during peacetime. So once again, I urge anyone who is watching this video, anyone who's interested in what's happening in Sri Lanka, to just stop a minute and just stand back and just stop falling for the frenzy of the ISIS threat. Because what your government is doing is taking you for a ride, and you very soon will be in a police state and it will be too late for you to return. If you read the articles that I post on the Fifth Estate, you'll see that everything that I say has come from a legitimate source. So I think it's time for there to be great protests in Sri Lanka, protests that are based on unity, because it's not in anyone's interest, whether you're Tamil or Muslim or Sinhalese, to have a government that is prepared to use extremists of different religions to attack the police themselves in order to generate a frenzy and in order to bring Gotabaya back as the tough man, strong on law, defeated the LTT and he can defeat ISIS. Please don't fall for it. Please make a noise. Just please stand up and hold your government to account, because the entire ISIS threat, it was a lie. And you really need to look at whether the Easter bombing carnage was caused by your own government.